All right, ready for another deep dive. Today we're heading to South Africa. Imagine you're planning a safari trip, right? And you want to see the Big Five. Well, we've got this cool newsletter here from Love to Visit South Africa, and it's got tons of tips. So let's dig in and see what we can find.
You know what's great? They jump right into the open vehicle safaris. It's not just about seeing the animals, it's about, like, feeling the wild.
Yeah, for sure. And they talk about Palanisburg Game Reserve. They say it's amazing for that.
Yeah.
You can explore, like, over 57,000 hectares in one of those open vehicles. Imagine coming face to face with lions or leopards, elephants, rhinos, buffalo.
Crazy, right?
What's really interesting about Palanisburg, though, is where it's located. It's right on the edge of the Kalahari and the Lowveld, like a transition zone, you know? So you get this mix of plants and animals you wouldn't see anywhere else.
Okay, hold on. For those of us who aren't South African geography experts,
Yeah.
what exactly is the Lowveld? Oh, it's basically a region with a lower altitude, so it's warmer, and the plants are different compared to, like, the drier Kalahari. You'll find species there, like the brown hyena, that are pretty rare in other places.
No way. So it's like
Yeah,
you're experiencing two worlds in one?
exactly. But, you know, even though Palanisburg is amazing for safaris, South Africa has even more to offer.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, if you want a lay, I guess you'd say more classic safari, there's Kruger National Park. And if you like more dramatic landscapes, you know, there's the Drakensberg Mountains and the Kalahari Desert. They're totally different.
Wait, so you're saying Eliot, I could go from, like, snow-capped mountains to these vast red dunes all in one trip. That's wild.
Totally. Oh, and we can't forget the cities and the coast. Cape Town's a must-see, you know, the mother city.
Yeah.
And then there's the Garden Route. It goes along the coast.
Yeah.
Beautiful views, charming towns, the whole thing.
Okay, wait, what is the Garden Route exactly? I've heard of it,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure I get it.
Picture this. You're driving along the coast, Bidge, the southeastern coast of South Africa, and you're going through these lush forests. You see lagoons, little coastal towns, all kinds of landscapes. It's known for its outdoor activities, too. Definitely worth adding to the itinerary.
All right, you've convinced me. South Africa is going on my list. But let's get back to the animals. The newsletter mentioned something called the Sambona Wildlife Reserve. What's so special about that?
Oh, Sambona is different. It's not just about pitch showing off the wildlife. It's about taking care of it. Like, they're really into conservation, making sure endangered species and plants are protected.
So it's like pitch, a safari with a purpose. That's really cool.
Exactly. They've been reintroducing, like, the white rhino, and they've been
cool.
super successful with it. And what's really cool is that they even let visitors be part of some of the conservation stuff.
Wow, so you could actually help out during your trip. That would definitely appeal to
Yeah.
you know, people who want to travel responsibly.
Absolutely. Sambona is a great example of how tourism can actually be good for the environment. Speaking of planning, though, the newsletter mentions something pretty important to keep in mind.
Okay, what is it?
You got to book in advance, especially if you're going during peak season. South Africa's a popular place, and the good safari spots and the accommodations, they fill up fast.
Yeah, that makes sense. Especially if you really want to do a specific thing.
Yeah.
Like those open vehicle safaris in Palanisburg.
Exactly. You don't want to get there and find out your dream safari is booked up.
Ugh, yeah, that would be awful. So booking ahead is definitely a good idea. But before we get too lost in logistics, let's talk about something a little more fun, like food.
You mean the eland potjie? It's in the South African food you will love section.
Yes, it sounds delicious. But I have to admit, Ro, I have no idea what a potjie is.
Oh, a potjie, it's pronounced potjie, by the way, is basically a stew, a traditional South African stew. They cook it really slowly in a cast iron pot, you know, one with 3 legs, over an open fire.
Oh, wow. So it's like a campfire feast. That sounds amazing.
It totally is. And they use all these hearty ingredients and spices, so the flavor's really rich. The eland meat is kind of like venison, so it's a little gamey, but super delicious.
Okay, now I'm officially hungry. But where do you even find this dish? Is it like in most restaurants?
The newsletter mentions having it specifically at Masueri Dam. It's probably a lodge or a spot within a game reserve where they serve this traditional meal.
I can just imagine it, enjoying this amazing stew under the African stars after a day of exploring. That sounds magical.
Yeah, it really is. And you know, they've actually been reintroducing endangered species like the white rhino, and it's been working. And get this, they even let visitors help out with some of the conservation work.
Wow, so you could actually be a part of it during your trip. That's amazing.
I know, right? It shows how tourism can actually have a positive impact.
Oh, and speaking of planning your trip, the newsletter has a really important tip.
Okay, lay it on me. Booking in advance is key. Especially during peak season, South Africa is super popular, and those safari spots and accommodations, they get booked up really quickly.
Yeah, especially if you
Ah,
want the specific experience, like
mm,
those open vehicle safaris at Pilanesberg.
exactly. You don't want to show up and have
Yeah.
everything be full.
Oh, man, that would be the worst.
Okay.
Okay, so booking ahead, definitely a good idea. But before we get too bogged down with all the planning stuff, let's talk about something a little more delicious.
You mean the eland potjie from the South African Food You Will Love section?
Yes, it sounds amazing, but I have to admit, I have no clue what a pachi is.
Oh, a potjie. It's pronounced potjie. It's basically like a traditional South African stew. They cook it slow
Hmm.
in a cast iron pot. It has 3 legs, and they cook it over an open fire.
Oh, wow. Like a campfire feast. Sounds so cozy.
It really is. And they use all these hearty ingredients and spices, so it's really flavorful. The eland meat is kind of like venison, a little gamey,
Hmm.
but it's so good.
Now I'm getting hungry. Where do you find this dish? Is it like at most restaurants?
The newsletter mentions having it, specifically at Maswiri Dam. It's probably a lodge,
Yep.
or maybe a specific spot, a game reserve where they serve it.
I can just picture it eating this amazing stew
Mm.
under the African stars.
Yeah.
After a day out exploring. Sounds pretty magical. Okay, so we've covered the amazing wildlife, the crazy landscapes,
Mhm.
from mountains to the coast. We even talked about that eland pachi dish. It seems like South Africa is a place where you can really have any kind of adventure you want.
Oh, for sure. There's something for everyone. You want a super fancy safari, you got it. You want something more rugged, they got that too. You can be out in nature all day, or explore the cities, or chill in those cute coastal towns.
And speaking of different experiences,
Mhm.
the newsletter has this section called Only in South Africa.
Hmm.
Did anything in there catch your eye?
They talked about some incredible Big Five sightings in Kruger National Park, like
Good.
seeing lions hunting, or a whole herd of elephants just crossing your path. Stuff like that's what makes a safari unforgettable.
Yeah, it's those moments that you can't plan for that end up being the best memories. I guess that's why it's so important to have a good guide, someone who knows the area and can help you see the animals.
Definitely. A good guide can track animals, pollute, explain their behavior, that, and keep
Yeah.
you safe too. Plus, they can tell you all about the ecosystem and the conservation efforts.
So anyone listening
Yeah.
who's thinking about a South Africa trip, finding a good tour operator or guide should be a top priority.
Absolutely. Local expertise is invaluable. They can help you plan a perfect trip for you.
Well, this deep dive into love to visit South Africa has been amazing. I'm already picturing myself there, exploring all those landscapes,
Right.
eating pachi under the stars.
That's the beauty of South Africa. It's a mix of so many things. You can really create your own adventure.
Exactly. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. What kind of South Africa trip are you dreaming of? Is it the thrill of the Big Five, the peacefulness of Sambona, or maybe the excitement of Cape Town?
Whatever you're looking for, South Africa has it. It's a place that sparks your imagination and lets you write your own story.
Beautifully said. And that's a wrap on another deep dive. We hope this episode has inspired you to explore South Africa. Until next time, keep exploring Etara and keep learning.